What is up? Okay, so today I just decided that I'm going to tell a little story, and I've got to do my makeup anyway, so I thought it's the perfect time, get something under the belt. And I mean, I'm honestly not doing much with my face today. I did just a BB cream. I don't know if you can tell. Just because I'm not going out. We have people coming over, so I'm just gonna do like some nudes. I'm just gonna use this Tarte palette and just get some color on there, some mascara, just to look halfway decent. So what I thought would be fun to talk about, for those of you that don't know, which would be like, well, anybody who's watching this, I do like to play games, and play games like Dungeons and Dragons, which is super weird. When I first got into it, when it was first suggested to me to play, I was like, no, that's a nerd game and I'm not doing it. But they were going to be playing at my house anyway with my ex, and I was like, well, okay. I mean, I don't want to just sit there, so I may as well give it a go. I thought I'd talk about that. Talk about my first character, which is super cliche and basic, but nonetheless, here we go. So I want to say this was 2015, so it was a couple of years ago, and I was living in England at the time. I was born and raised in America, but I spent almost 7 years, just a couple months under 7 years living in England. So it was with people over there, which was my ex's friends, that were going to be playing it. I thought, well, since everyone's going to be in my house playing, I may as well join in. So they talked about it a little bit, but hadn't really made anything concrete or made any plans. They'd just been, oh, you know, he'd come home. You know, we might be playing this game. And I'm thinking, okay. It's not that, like, I mean, I've always been kind of a nerd myself. I mean, mostly books and Harry Potter. I grew up, loving Harry Potter. But I never really, I mean, I was kind of a loner, so I never really played anything. I mean, I'm sure I would have. I was at work. My ex texted me and said, oh, tonight they're coming over. And I was like, gee, thanks. I hope my house is clean.
Just kidding, it's always clean.
It was the last minute. I think they had been making their characters, so I had no idea what I was looking at. I didn't know what the stats were. And so he's like, okay, well, he's got these pre-made characters, this, and this. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to play something I want to play as. And I can't for the life of me remember what the pre-made characters were, but I did just a little bit of research. I was like, okay, I'm not going to commit to being too much of, you know, whatever, at first, at least. So my first thing was, I'll go with half elves. I want to be elf, but I'm not going to fully commit. I'm going to go half elf, which then, you know, going into the backstory for the character really worked for me. But then it was like, okay, I'll be a half elf, and I want to be a rogue. I want to be mysterious. And I kind of looked it up and kind of figured that out. And then when they came that night, we went through and made a really quick character, because we were all starting at level 1 anyway. But before that, I had figured out that her name was Freya, and I honestly don't remember how far along I had gotten the story at that point. One thing I will say about my first group, and I hate to say it, because of reasons I'm not going to get into, that I think mainly because it was my first experience playing, and we played for so long, and the DM was really good. And since then, I've pretty much been DMing myself, which is being the dungeon master and running the game, which is a whole fucking thing. If you don't know, it's a lot of work. You have to guide the story, and no matter what you do, it's almost guaranteed that the people playing the characters aren't going to do what you want them to do. And I mean, that's the beauty of the game. But as a DM, that's kind of frustrating, because you prepare all this stuff and then they don't want to do any of it. So I had this character. Her name was Freya. I had a rough idea of what I wanted her to look like. I think it kind of evolved. But I know that I wanted her to have, like, white hair that was kind of in a braid. It was Elsa-esque, but she had that braid and, like, her hood up. And then her eyes were, like, a deep purpley plum color. And I just, like, always loved that. And then she had, I think to begin with, she had, like, a scar down her face and down the side. No, I didn't want her to be, like, that stereotypical, I want to steal everything. And I'm, like, you know, ooh, I'm a rogue and I've got to be conniving and be a doucher to everybody. So what I did for her, this is probably another very basic cliche way to do that, is that she is trying to go straight, and that's how she'd hooked up with the party or whatever, was that she was trying to get away from all the things she had done before, because she had been like a well-known thief and she'd been trained on the streets. And I eventually had this whole backstory for her, and honestly, she's one that in like the next character, like my backup, you want to get a backup character, let's be honest, because you never know when your character's gonna die. But I got very lucky. My DM didn't lose anybody. While he was very linear, like in his, this is how it's supposed to go, and it was hard for that DM, I think. He was a new DM, but he was great. He was a really good DM. He wanted to please everybody, so there were some calls at the beginning that were quite unfair towards me as a rogue for my like sneak attack and everything. But I mean, it was eventually resolved. But I think he wanted to keep this story, and this is the way I think I play as well as a DM, is I don't think you should. I think it's not about the DM against the players. It's definitely like, you want them to get, at least for me, I want there to be connections with players to their characters, because then you're making decisions based on your character and not just, oh well, I'm just going to do everything I want, and who cares if my character dies, because I can just make a new one, and I've got no connection to him anyway, so who cares? Yeah, so I mean, I was able to, like I said, get an extra character, but I never needed to use him, which for me was kind of sad, because there were times where I was like, okay, I might die going into the situation because of how things have gone. I had made this character, and I had made her backstory because I had gotten so far into it, which I mean, I'll make another video about that. I started making characters based off of this character because I was so connected to her. I mean, I played her for a year and a half, once a week. I think we only got to level 5 or 6. And we had played through, because we started with the Lost Mines of Fandelva in the starter pack that you get. It's the starter kit, which I ran that as well. Was one of the first things I ran as a DM, and it's really good. If you're just starting out and you're just wanting to be a DM, I mean, it's only about that thick, and it's very comprehensive on a lot of different things. It leaves a lot of room for improvisation, but it also gives you a lot of background and everything you really need, and options, and different quests that you can go on, that it doesn't feel linear. It feels like you've got a lot you can do, and a lot of ways that the story can develop into what you want. And it's just really fun, and it allowed, I think, our characters to really thrive. One of the things that we did in that first group was we had a group chat where we would chat during the week between sections as our characters, to help develop stories more and bonds more, and like work out things maybe that had gone on. And it wasn't like really in depth, but just enough that I think it just formed more connections between characters, so that when you went in next week, maybe there was stuff going on, or there was higher stakes in situations. But I loved that bond that we were able to grow and thrive into. Nothing crazy happened, nothing that was going to break the game. We didn't end up getting, going on, I popping upon this crazy magical item. That didn't happen. I mean, I've loved the people I've played with since, but I think this is that character, half-elf rogue named Freya. Her of course her parents are dead. Well, at least she thinks her dad's dead. Her mother died raising her the best she could. She ended up on the streets, and then, of course, taken in by a band of thieves, Oliver Twist style. And just becoming this master cat thief. And then, like I said, I was, so into her character, I ended up taking her backstory and then intertwining into my second character. Was this guy. How I was going to tie him into the group if she ever died was that he was looking for her because they had a romantic thing, girly shit. Like I said, we did play like Lost Mines, and then we played Curse of Strahd is where we left off. I quickly ran that too. And again, when I was DMing, and I know this was self-serving, but I had talked to At the time, I had just been DMing for 2 people, and I had talked to him beforehand. And I was like, look, you're in this situation, and when I was playing, I had left off with this character, and she was just stuck there. And I always felt like there wasn't really an end to her story, and I felt like this unfinished feeling about her that was really depressing for me. And and I ended up going ahead and like I said, speaking to my players, and I brought her in as an NPC, which I leveled up some more, because since we had left off there, she if you're familiar with the story, is that you get transported to Barovia and you're stuck there basically for that campaign because it's because of Strahd and whatnot. Realistically, in a game sense, she was stuck there. And so I just said, okay, so she spent time there, she's leveled up some, and I made it so she would be able to help them and be helpful. I know people hate DMPCs, but as long as she does what she can, like I made her more of a support at that point. I had her multi-class into a cleric at that point because she had enough wisdom, and so she was able to do like healing spells and things like that, and do things that I knew she would be able to help them with, and like give them stuff, because honestly, we had to pretty much wrap up what we were doing. It was like I was about to move, and so I was like, okay, I got you here, and shit, I'm about to move, so we're gonna go kill Strahd, and this is what's happening. But I mean, this was like a 12 hours. This was a long all-day session because we were doing so much. It was nice because I was able to have her run into other characters that I went evil, which was just me working through stuff. It was a therapy session for me, but I was DMing for family, and they were okay with that, and they knew I needed to get through some shit, and it was like them helping me through that. And I know it's crazy, but I feel like when I had first started playing, I wasn't thinking, oh, this is gonna be something that, you don't expect to really have that connection with it, especially like I did. I was very surprised by that. It is nerdy. It is can be weird, but you know what? It can be fun as well. And it's really easy to allow yourself to get lost in that. And I have always had a big imagination. And so once I did it, it was really freeing. And I mean, what I liked most about it was developing that story and allowing myself to be creative. So that was a rambling about kind of how I got into D&D. I am by no way an expert on the subject. I'm not deep into the lore. I like coming up with what I want to come up with by myself. And I've only been playing for 5-6 years, and I've only played 5th edition. So yeah, I'm not an expert on anything by any means, just someone who likes to play and someone who likes to have fun doing it, and just thought it might be fun to talk about while I'm doing certain things, maybe just doing my makeup, because it's so much easier to talk when you've got something to do with your hands. Right now, I'm freaking out. All right, thanks for watching if you've made it this far. I know it's a lot of rambling, but yeah, have a good one, and see you later. Bye!